Hi, everybody. It's Christy Gessler, the dependent agent, coming at you today from Austin, Texas. Thank you so much for joining the show and continuing on with the community that we're working so hard to put together through this podcast. Again, wanting to talk as much as we can openly about dependency, addiction, anxiety, and depression in this glorious industry that we all love, and that is real estate. What I would like to talk about today is a little bit about some context in my work world that contributed to the months coming up to the big crash. I think it's important that I bring this up and talk about what was happening to me professionally in that time frame, so that when you're thinking about your daily activities and your workload and what you say yes to, one of my favorite life and business coaches is Brian Buffini, and at a recent event he held in Fort Worth, his partner Jamie Nowak talked about having a full plate and everything, and sometimes busy does not always mean productive. And she did say that you are as busy as you are because you said yes to everything on your plate. So I think it's important to talk about the things that I said yes to back in this time frame, that the things that were on my plate, or just what I found delivered to my plate, maybe not necessarily by choice. So the time frame I'm speaking of in today's podcast goes back to the August, September, October time frame, maybe even a little bit into July, a little bit before that, in 2017. And coming up into those months at Keller Williams, I had recognized that the the tide had turned, the company had changed, things were being done a little bit differently, overall. And I think that I started to have a real serious reevaluation of myself and my place in the company. So earlier that year in 2017, I was in the midst of what was called the Growth Initiative. And for those of you that remember that process, it was an initiative set forth by John Davis, who was the CEO of the company at the time, driving really, really big recruiting numbers and sometimes driving them to the point of detriment. I've alluded to it several times. I'll talk about it again in the future. There was a lot of cheating and mishandling, misreporting, and all out fraud involved in recording some of the numbers of agents and recruiting meetings and numbers of hires and people on rosters. And it was happening, and it was rampant, and it was happening. And I knew that in my office dynamic, with me being the sole team leader, trying to also be the broker of record, trying to do all things to everybody for everyone in the office, staff and otherwise, was becoming very grueling and very daunting. So in about the June-July timeframe of 2017, knowing the pace that Keller Williams was on as a result of the growth initiative, I raised a white flag and I said, I need help. I need different help than we've thought about before. We had been very cautious to hire staff members at Keller Williams Cedar Park. And I admit now, looking back, that we made a lot of fundamental misses when we hired people. And so I looked at this next hire that this office, again, I am an owner in this franchise. I am the broker of record. I am the team leader, CEO. I understood just as much as anyone else, maybe even a little bit more, of the importance of this next person we would hire. Was going to come into a very volatile dynamic, but I knew privately and quietly that I needed the help of another person because my addiction was getting very, very real. And I recognized that something needed to give. However, I didn't fully recognize that I was the one that was still crumbling. I think I asked for help a little bit too late. And so that would be a big takeaway from reminiscing about this time in my life, would be, if you are feeling like you are drowning, when you take that first gulp of water as you start to go under the surface, the moment you surface, call for help right then. I didn't. I thought I could keep going. I could keep doing this. I could keep trying to do better and trying to do more because at that time within Keller Williams, I felt like you were never good enough. And that hurts after a while. It hurts. It just hurts to keep hearing that you needed to do more and do better. And wait, here's a high five, and we'll bring you a cupcake, but boy, keep doing more. And it was never good enough. And I'm okay with always wanting better, but I wasn't okay at that time with the way the messages were delivered. So let me put it that way. So here I sit, June, July timeframe, and I recognize that this next hire is going to be a critical one. So I spoke with my operating principal, my partner, and I told her at a little restaurant in Cedar Park, I said, I need help. And I think I've identified who, not who as the name of the person who, but who in terms of the skill set that I think is best suited. Now, ironically, looking back, how the hell did I know what the right fit was? I barely knew what I was doing 1 minute to the next in terms of being drunk or wanting to get drunk or thinking about when I was going to stop at the store to get my next drink or what was going to happen. Like I really thought I knew what was going to be, quote, best for the office. But I really honestly thought about it and I put forth effort into thinking about the solution. I have always said that if you have a problem, please bring me the problem. But after you take a deep breath in delivering your problem, the next sound out of your mouth needs to be the beginning of a solution. So I came into the meeting with my operating partner and I had what I thought might be a viable solution. And that was to hire me a recruiting partner. I wanted to still be the broker of the office. I still wanted to have a hand in education. I wanted to have a hand in contract education and compliance. And that had started to change. And I had proven myself to be a little bit underwater in keeping up with the compliance side. So maybe we could also leverage that to one of the staff people a little bit. And I could do a better job being the broker and somewhat of the real estate glue of the office. Not the Keller Williams glue, but the real estate glue for the office. And so I sat down with her in this little restaurant in Cedar Park and we had the conversation. And I said, here's who I think I need. I said, you know how the military have some of the top recruiters in the country, and these guys are great. Can I have your blessing to go and find an outstanding recruiter that I would recruit away from his current or her current position? And I did tell her it probably should be a man because at the time we had an all-female staff. So can we please bring some variety? That he could be recruited away and his job would be to set up appointments and set up meetings for me to go in and have my talks with the agents and hire away and move forward. Because my thought process at the time was I need help making those phone calls and setting those appointments. And if I could get that time block off of my plate and onto somebody else's, my plate would be opened up for a little more space to say yes to more actual one-on-one recruiting appointments and having that face-to-face conversation. So I thought that was the plan. I left that meeting that day and literally I went out to the parking lot and I said, oh, awesome. We have a plan. I've expressed my need. I've expressed my shortcoming. I've expressed a solution. I've tried to, be all hands on deck and be behind it 100%. And lo and behold, I thought, okay, you did it. This would have been, like I said, June timeframe, probably somewhere in that frame of 2017. So I thought, okay, good. Spring and summer selling season is upon us. You're going to do great. This is going to be great. So fast forward a short period of time, and I'm in the market center one day near the very end of the day, and a phone call comes in, and the front desk receptionist at the time came back and she said, Christy, there was a recruit on the line for you that's asking some questions about the market center. Do you have time to take the call? And of course I giggled and I said, I always have time to take those calls. Do you remember, woman? I have numbers. Yes, please. Please give me the call. Yes, I need the appointments. Yes, thank you. So I thought, hot damn, what a great way to end the day. And it was really literally at the end of the workday. So, 4:30, 5 o'clock, she was getting ready to leave. Last call coming in at the end of the day before they forwarded the phones to the night call agent. So the man on the other end of the line just starts talking to me about um, Keller Williams and his experience with it, and then started asking me all these very, very deliberate and pointed questions about the market center. And I bring that up because these questions were not necessarily about um, broker splits or the charges of a monthly technology fee or what we charged an agent every month for errors and omissions insurance, if we had any of those charges, or that kind. Those weren't the questions. The questions was more about profitability and management and quality of staff and quality of agents, and what leadership positions did anyone hold, and what kind of volume did you do, and how were your teams? Did you have good teams? How productive were they? And so I was like, well, this is a very interesting conversation with a quote recruit unquote. But I thought, okay, hey, listen, whatever, it's the end of the day, I'll answer whatever call and question comes up. That's fine, I'll just take care of it. But during the course of the call, I got a little uncomfortable, and I just kind of finally said, I'm sorry, may I ask again, your intentions of coming to this office are, you when? And I kind of just said, hey, can I rewind the conversation just a little bit, and remind me who you are, and why you're calling today? And he said, well, my name is Paul, and I think I'm going to be taking over your job. And so I kind of took a deep breath, and I said, oh, well, gosh, nice to speak with you. Thank you very much for calling. And it's getting a little late. I need to get going. We'd probably been on the phone at that point, 30, 40 minutes. And I said, I need to go ahead and get going, and thank you. And so he was gracious and said, thank you for my time, and hung up. And I sat there and I took a deep breath. And at some point, I'd gotten up and I'd closed the doors to my office, so those were not open any longer. And I could tell at that point that the market center was pretty quiet. Nobody else was around. And so I proceeded to go to my little refrigerator in my office and pour some wine into my Yeti or whatever I happen to have on my desk. And I sat there then and I said, no one ever told me that anyone was officially being interviewed for this job. And certainly no one ever told me that there was a final candidate that might be calling and speaking to me. And no one ever told me anything about this man. And so I was completely caught off guard, on my heels, unaware, just felt kind of just bam across the forehead with a 2x4. And, what did I answer? And who was this guy? And was it true? And was he really a replacement? And if so, did I make an ass of myself talking to him on the phone? Because I thought, oh my God, had I known who this was, I could have acted much differently. And so I had these thoughts going through my head, just rapid fire, one after another after another. And long story short, he had been chosen as the new team leader and had actually been offered the job after a whole series of conference calls, and I guess calls with my operating principal that had lasted for hours and hours, and sometimes even in the middle of the night apparently these calls were taking place, and that's when this whole job hire happened. And I thought, the hell? Oh, okay. um I guess I didn't really understand the hiring process, is kind of what I thought. And I am still CEO of this office, but then all of a sudden I sat there and I said, I don't think I'm CEO anymore. I think that there's a new team leader that has been like preliminarily crowned, and I'm out. Yeah, swallow hard and sit there and go, oh, okay. Because I tell you, there was no other communication with me whatsoever about where things were in process. And I don't know if it was because they were, quote, trying to protect me from it, or wanted me to be uninvolved so that I didn't sway the process any. I really honestly don't know, and I've never once been told why. At this point, I absolutely don't care. But what I will tell you that came through in the next 60 days destroyed me, destroyed so much of what I thought I had built that it was just absolutely bombarding. And in the next episode, I will talk to you about what I learned and who I learned was about to join the Market Center and what that meant for the next few days leading into November the 8th and the run in to rehab. So thank you again for listening to this part of the Dependent Agent. My name is Christy Gessler. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to connect with you on this important issue. If you know anyone who is suffering from depression, anxiety, addiction of any sort, please, please, please say something, reach out, look at thedependentagent.com for resources and information. And I look forward to talking with you on the next episode. Take care and be well.